The New American Nazis, from the Third Reich to the Civil War and beyond. Introduction. Fascism in America, a repeating pattern. Fascism did not die with Hitler, Mussolini, or the Third Reich. It evolved, adapted, and embedded itself within the American power structure. Today's fascists wear suits instead of swastikas, use legislation instead of gas chambers, and manipulate corporate media instead of state-run newspapers. But their tactics remain the same. Scapegoat minorities for economic and social problems. Use law enforcement and military force to crush dissent. Manipulate history to justify oppression. Consolidate power and wealth by enslaving or exploiting workers. The U.S. has always had a fascist streak, dating back to slavery, indigenous genocide, and the Civil War. The modern Nazi elite, both Republican and Democrat, are reviving these same tactics today. This essay will name the New American Nazis and draw historical parallels to the Third Reich, the U.S. Civil War, the Indian Wars, and Japanese internment, exposing how the elites profit from oppression. The modern fascists and their historical counterparts. 1. Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, and Jefferson Davis. Trump mirrors Hitler's fascism and Davis's Confederacy in terrifying ways. Race-based nationalism. Hitler blamed Jews for Germany's decline, just as Trump blames immigrants, Black Americans, and Muslims. Authoritarianism and coup attempts. Hitler staged a beer hall putsch. Trump incited January 6, 2021. Jefferson Davis declared war on democracy to preserve white supremacy, just as Trump seeks to overthrow elections. Militarized white supremacy. The SS crushed dissent in Germany, much like the Confederate slave patrols and modern IC and federal agents under Trump. 2. Ron DeSantis, Heinrich Himmler, and Andrew Jackson DeSantis governs Florida like Himmler ran the SS. Erasing history. Himmler rewrote German history to erase Jewish contributions. DeSantis bans books and censors slavery's role in American history. Mass deportation and forced relocation. Jackson forced indigenous people onto the Trail of Tears, just as DeSantis rounds up immigrants and ships them to other states for political gain. 3. Elon Musk, Joseph Goebbels, and Henry Ford Musk, like Goebbels, controls information to normalize fascism. Propaganda machine. Goebbels controlled Nazi media. Musk weaponizes ex-Twitter to spread white nationalism, suppress dissent, and normalize hate speech. Corporate fascism. Henry Ford funded Nazi Germany, much like Musk funds authoritarian causes while profiting off government contracts. 4. The Koch network and Wall Street elite. Nazi industrialists and slave owners IG Farben and Krupp use forced labor in Nazi camps. Today's billionaires profit from private prisons, detention centers, and Amazon sweatshops. The plantation aristocracy funded the Civil War to maintain slavery. Today's Wall Street elites fund police militarization and anti-labor policies to keep workers subjugated. 2. American fascism is bipartisan. The Democrats roll one. The Laken-Riley Act in Japanese internment camps. While the Laken-Riley Act was introduced under Trump and signed into law in 2025, it received bipartisan support, proving that Democrats are complicit in modern-day fascism. This act, which mandates the detention of undocumented immigrants accused of theft and violent crimes, mirrors FDR's Japanese internment camps, which imprison over 120,000 innocent Japanese Americans. Hitler's detention of Jews before the final solution. Jim Crow-era black codes, which criminalized black existence to maintain white supremacy. Yet, history shows immigrant amnesty would add $1.5 trillion to the economy, while mass deportation only fuels private prisons, another Nazi-style profiteering scheme. 2. Kamala Harris J. Edgar Hoover and Indian boarding schools. Mass incarceration. Harris, like Hoover, jailed black men at disproportionate rates. Colonial assimilation. Indian boarding schools stole indigenous children to re-educate them. Harris's tough-on-crime policies did the same to black youth through harsh sentencing laws. 3. America's long history of fascism. Slavery, the Indian Wars, and Japanese internment. 1. Slavery, the American Holocaust. The Nazis studied America's race laws to build their Jewish policies. American slave patrols inspired modern police militarization. Corporate America profited off slavery, much like today's billionaires profit from sweatshops, detention centers, and prison labor. 2. The Indian Wars. Nazi Lebensraum. Hitler's plan to conquer Eastern Europe mimicked America's westward expansion, which exterminated indigenous tribes for corporate profit. The reservation system mirrors Nazi ghettos, restricting indigenous autonomy while stealing land and resources. 3. Japanese internment. The Laken Riley Act and immigration detention. Japanese Americans were imprisoned without cause. Today's immigrants are jailed in for-profit detention centers. Both eras use fear and nationalism to justify human rights abuses. 4. The playbook. How fascists stay in power. Scapegoat minorities, Jews, slaves, indigenous people, immigrants. Control the media. Goebbels. Confederate propaganda. Musk's X. Expand state surveillance. Gestapo. Slave patrols. IC, NSA. Crush workers and enrich elites. Krupp, Ford, Amazon, Wall Street. V. Conclusion. The working class must fight back. America stands at a historical crossroads. Either we fight fascism now, or we become its next victims. The new Reich is already here, in our prisons, in our police forces, in our immigration policies, and in our rigged economy. Both Republicans and Democrats enable this system. The working class must unite immigrants, Black Americans, indigenous people, and laborers to fight against elite fascists before it's too late. Final warning. If we do nothing, the modern American Nazi will finish what Hitler, the Confederacy, and the genocidal U.S. government started, a permanent fascist state controlled by billionaires and built on oppression.